This is Phantology.
You may have heard of us.
Alright, mages, witchers, and those of us with elder blood. Welcome to a review of Season 3, Part 1 of The Witcher, the first 5 episodes that dropped on Netflix. We have 3 more to come, and what did I think of the first batch of Season 3? Well, I'm on the record as saying, I'm a big fan of this show. I really like, especially the character relationships, and Season 2, I actually really enjoyed. I think looking back now, I'm starting to kind of doubt that a little bit, but I do think this is a solidly above average fantasy TV show, and it has the potential to be great, but is a little held back in getting there in some of the ways that the story is structured. So let me go into a little more detail here. So first of all, why do I like The Witcher? Well, its core cast, especially our main 4 of Ciri, Jaskier, Geralt, and Yennefer, are really spectacular. Their chemistry just kind of pops right off the screen, and they make it very enjoyable to watch the show, especially Henry Cavill. And honestly, I'm having a very hard time thinking about how this show can be nearly as good without Henry there. When the news was first announced, I was kind of like, whatever. I think another actor, especially someone who's well known enough, could do a good job. But now after watching these 5 episodes, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, Henry really kind of carries the show and takes it from like average to solidly above average. So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty nervous. I think this was a major flub by Netflix. That was a mistake. Someone horribly mismanaged that. I also think this show really has that cool factor, and we saw it a lot here in Season 3. The magic is cool. The monster hunting is cool. It looks cool. I know Netflix often doesn't have a super high budget, and I think it does hold back some of the story things that could have made it better. But the CGI has gotten better since that horrible dragon in Season 1. So props for investing some money there and really just making the show look lived in and look cool. Okay, now my cons, and this is still kind of general. I'll get into maybe like episode by episode, quick hitters. But cons for the whole series, and especially here in Season 3, is outside of the character stuff and the plot around Ciri, Geralt, and Yennefer, I struggle to really even care. Like, it's not that hard to follow the plot, but I struggle to care about what's going on, especially with Nilfgaard and the elves. There's a couple of reasons that I've been able to put my finger on. One is that our main characters don't really care about any of these larger events. Yennefer maybe cares a little bit. Geralt does not care. That's like his whole MO. And Ciri is just kind of, dragged along. She's a pawn in this whole struggle. So it's tough to care when the characters we love don't really care. They're telling us not to care. Yet here it is on the screen, and we're supposed to, follow and care about this thing. The other problem I think with this is we are told that there's a big war going on and people are suffering, and like maybe we see that a little bit. But have we seen any big war on-screen fighting with Nilfgaard? Not since Season 1. I don't remember Season 2 super well, so I may be making a mistake here. But I don't recall Season 2 really having any big Nilfgaard wars. So, and we haven't seen any in Season 3 through these 5 episodes, other than like some aftermath of a bunch of poor small folk dying and, things look bleak out there in the countryside. However, I have a hard time caring about Nilfgaard if I'm just told that they're a threat, but I don't actually see them being threatening other than Emhyr being a loser king. And then to add to that, Season 2 really kind of seems pointless at this point, because they went back to more of the books here in Season 3, more of the book events. And the stuff in Season 2 was kind of thrown in there, and the Witchers are not even really talked about here through the beginning of Season 3. And the only thing that really carries over are like the Yennefer's past actions, which are quickly forgiven and not a big deal anymore, and the Wild Hunt, which we have 1 scene of. And if they could lean into the Wild Hunt more, I think they will. That is kind of the end game of the story. I'm glad that this has popped up here, but this needs to become a bigger thing going forward. And now finally, and I'm going to get into episode spoilers here at this point, I thought episode 5 was really bad. The way that I guess I'll start going episode by episode, and episode 5 jumps out right away. But the way that they structured this, where it started at the end and then they jump back and forth between Geralt and Yennefer and the events of the night, and they slowly kind of peel back the onion to show you what the conversations were. And like on surface level, it seems kind of like a cool way to tell a story, but the execution was not good because the tension, they tried to make the tension really high, right? And they had the foreboding music the whole time, and it kind of felt like, this is like Red Wedding, Game of Thrones stuff that's about to go down here. But it doesn't. Like, the payoff of this is, oh, it turns out that Vilgefortz was the bad guy all along. And we're like, how could this possibly be? Because obviously this guy is bad. I don't think it's really that hard to figure out, especially if you remember back in season 1, we knew he was bad because he killed that one Brotherhood dude with no explanation, and since then he's been acting good, and this has never been revisited. But Vilgefortz is clearly bad. Maybe you missed it, but I thought this was very lame, and the whole tension building up to this was not cool. This episode was a big miss. There was no action. Geralt and Yennefer were fun at least throughout, and they obviously have a great dynamic between them. But man, the storytelling in this episode was awkward and not good. However, some of the episodes were pretty good, especially episode 1 I thought was an excellent start to the season 3, and the reason why was because it focused on the characters that we care about. It was almost 100% Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri and their dynamic and their relationships as they grew, and again, the dynamic between Geralt and Yennefer is kind of, there's some sexual tension here, and it's done well. And I just love this episode. I thought it was a great reminder to what this series is. There's some monster hunting. It's all there for you. Like, everything good about the show is right there in that first episode. However, as we go forward into the rest of the season, we do have to put some kind of plot backdrop on their relationship. And the whole plot is like Ciri, right? She's the special thing, and she's coming into her powers, and everyone's trying to get her for different reasons. And that's a good plot. I mean, obviously the books are very popular. To be completely honest, I didn't love the books. I thought the plot was fine, but some of the ways the story was told just kind of turned me off of it. I did finish all of the books, although that was years ago. I really liked the video game, Wild Hunt, Witcher 3, and I'm getting a little confused, honestly, between like which is canon where and which characters are which, and they're a little different between the different mediums, but it's roughly the same story throughout. Ciri's the special thing the whole time. The problem is we don't care. I mean, this is my con before, right? I just have a hard time caring about the whole conflict that's in the backdrop of this, that's driving everything, and it's really important to care about the big conflict, but our characters don't care. They're just trying to deal with their kind of day-to-day things of keeping Ciri around and trying to survive in the world. And I just never got into the whole Nilfgaard politics and the elf politics, and so I thought when we went to that more in episode 2 was not as strong. However, the fake Ciri thing is cool, and that's a thing from the books, although it does seem like they've changed it here a little bit. I mean, they're still including it. I thought episode 3 was actually pretty good, and it really centered around Geralt as we explored a little bit more of his backstory and got some emotional moments with him talking about his mother and his whole thing, trying to protect Ciri. And that all came together really well. Like, Henry Cavill totally carried this episode. And like I said, it's going to be tough to replace him. So good luck, Liam. Episode 4 was solid. I thought it was a good bridge episode, although it didn't really pay off for me in episode 5. But it was some good setup, and there were some great character moments here around Ciri. Ciri and Jaskier especially, I thought was fun as they were like miming out Geralt and Yennefer's conversations and playing cards. Like, that was all fun and kind of heartwarming stuff. And then Ciri and Geralt as they were fighting the creature on the barge, like, that was cool. And we really get to see Ciri rather than just be damsel in distress all the time. She is totally capable, and it's good foreshadowing towards what she, assume will become. And I think eventually she's going to have to carry the show more and more, especially, like I said, as Henry Cavill exits, we're going to need someone to really carry the show and pop off the screen. And I think that she's doing an excellent job. Without Henry, it's going to be tough. However, I do think season 3 so far has been solid, above average. Like, 7.5, 8 out of 10-ish if I had to assign it a rating. Looking forward to the last 3 episodes, and we'll see if they can close it out. I mean, I imagine that all of this tension that I didn't really get into, but the tension that the show wants you to think is now starting to boil over, and we're going to get some big explosions here with the Brotherhood, and I assume the war with Nilfgaard will hopefully finally see it really kind of spill over, and we'll see how Redania handles things. And there's a lot of elements here that could make a cool show. They just need to get me to care about it. So we'll see how they do in the second half.